the motion and say that the matter we are discussing, Honorable Speaker, is a very important matter in this country. As we are all aware, public debt has actually become the elephant in the room. Every Kenyan is talking about it. Every government official is talking about it. And that's why this report becomes very important. And I really would want to urge my colleagues, the honorable members, to take very seriously the recommendations of this report, because it provides a roadmap as we move to the future. Honorable Speaker, even if the world go, you have heard my chair say that we have signed about 11 loans for the period we are discussing, and only 3 have been dispersed, Honorable Speaker. Meaning, Honorable Speaker, that the normal challenge we have been discussing as a House, the challenge of paying commitment fee for loans which are not dispersed, will continue being with us. How I wish, Honorable Speaker, that this House would make a resolution so that after this report is adopted by the House, we are able to summon all the MDAs who have borrowed money from different countries and they are not being used, because Treasury would normally sign for the loans, but in terms of implementation, Honorable Speaker, it is the MDAs who are expected to implement. Honorable Speaker, you'll be surprised to learn that some MDAs have even taken more than 10 years to withdraw loans which have been signed for. Honorable Speaker, I really want to urge colleagues to support us so that such MDAs are summoned immediately after this report is adopted by the committee, so that they are able to explain to this House why are they not drawing the money and what reasons are making them not draw the money. And if the reasons are not really clear enough to the House, Honorable Speaker, that such loans can be cancelled. The other issue which is important, Honorable Speaker, is as a House, we all passed the MDS, the medium-term debt strategy, is approved by this House. And Honorable Speaker, we are saying, despite the fact that we approve this document, we have realized it's like there is a gap where at times we are approving this document, but we don't have a very specific list in terms of what is going to be funded. As we move to the future, Honorable Speaker, my recommendation would be, as a House, by the time Treasury is submitting the medium-term debt strategy, they also submit a specific list of projects and programs that will be funded within that year, so that as a House, we know what is going to be funded, and then we can oversight effectively. The other matter which is important, Honorable Speaker, is the matter of counterpart funding. Most of these loans, when they have been signed, the government is expected to fund part of the loan through what we call counterpart funding, Honorable Speaker. And we have realized that there are loans where the government would sign, and the issue of counterpart funding is not factored into our annual budget process. So I think it is very important, Honorable Speaker, if we get a listing of all these projects which are going to be funded through loans, then we can make sure that as a committee also, such projects are also, we ensure that there is counterpart funding for those specific projects, so that we don't have loans which have been signed, Honorable Speaker, and then, Honorable Speaker, we don't have the kind of funding, meaning we can even not withdraw the funds. The other matter, Honorable Speaker, which is important, I think from our interaction with some of these MDAs and Treasury, it's emerging that, Honorable Speaker, I think the technical capacity of our people to negotiate for loans effectively is being put into doubt. And I think it is important, Honorable Speaker, that we also make provision as a House that our technical capacity for those who negotiate for these loans, we build that capacity to a level that the country gets value for the loans. Because, Honorable Speaker, if people who are negotiating for these loans don't have the right capacity, then that's why you see the gaps we are experiencing as a country. Honorable Speaker, there is this matter of the central bank overdraft, which we also picked, Honorable Speaker, where the law allows that Treasury can borrow up to a maximum 5% of the national revenue as an overdraft from the central bank. And any normal overdraft, Honorable Speaker, the way it operates, even your own personal overdraft, is that any time you get money, you reduce it to 0, then from there you start building again, up to a specific time, it's supposed to go to 0. So on annual basis, as we cross from one financial year to another, the expectation, Honorable Speaker, should be the National Treasury or the government crosses the year, the financial year, with zero in terms of overdraft facility. But historically, we have realized that every year they are crossing the year with about 80% of overdraft, which means, Honorable Speaker, they have a very small space, borrowing space in terms of what is remaining, because if, for example, now we are at 80 billion, and they are borrowed about 72 billion by the closure of the year, and they don't really clear that to go to zero, it means the following year they will have only about 8 billion to borrow. And this makes the issue of cash management, cash flow management, very complicated, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, this report is bringing out very important issues, which as a House we need to agree with and support this important committee so that we get value for these loans. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, this is what I want to say, Honorable Speaker. The issue of loans, and more so domestic loans and the external loans, we realize that now over time, the government is reverting so much to domestic borrowing. Honorable Speaker, domestic borrowing is good, it's easier to accomplish. But I want to tell the Kenyans that with domestic borrowing, Honorable Speaker, the challenge is the interest rates. Currently, our interest rates are above 15%, Honorable Speaker, while concessional loans would get them to a tune of 2.5% or 3%. So there is very important that we get a delicate balance, Honorable Speaker, in terms of these borrowing ratios, so that we don't overburden Kenyans by having, and when you borrow domestically also, Honorable Speaker, there is also the matter of crowding out the private sector, because the government starts competing with the private sector, the small-scale industries, the individuals, and it is obvious that if you compete with the government in terms of borrowing, the government will always get that first priority in terms of lending. So it is important, Honorable Speaker, we get that ratio right so that we allow our small-scale industries and factories and individuals to borrow from our local banks, and then the government can try to borrow from externally from other countries. In that case, then we'll be helping this country, Honorable Speaker, and the matter of public debt still remains a very contentious matter, is a very critical matter in this country, and as a House, anything which will help us push this agenda forward, Speaker, and more so, reducing public debt is very important. Honorable Speaker, we all do observe the supplementary budget we have just passed. We have moved the budget deficit from 4.4% to 5.3%, Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to say this. So long as we are increasing our budget deficit, we'll have no choice but to continue borrowing. It is time we went for fiscal consolidation and more so reducing the budget deficit to the expected rates, which are normally around 3%. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I second. Thank you.
Honorable Member.